What's up, everybody, and welcome to Growing Up Gaming, your weekly podcast where we meet a new person on the internet to discuss their childhood with gaming and how it inspired their lives today. My name is Mitch Power. Again, thank you guys so much for returning each and every week to the show. Hopefully you've subscribed on iTunes or Google Play or TuneIn Radio or your local AM sports station at 2 in the morning. Yes, we are on there too. If you don't believe me, go ahead and listen. This week on the show, we have our guest. His name is Jordan Kirk. I actually met this man on Twitter. He reached out to me, just like each and every one of you can, at GUG Podcast on Twitter, and he asked to be on the show. So I said, of course, that's not a problem at all. If you guys want to be on the show just like he was, again, at GUG Podcast or at MitchPower1116 on Twitter, feel free to send me a tweet. I'd be glad to have each and every one of you guys on. Without further ado, let's get things started with Jordan Kirk. Do you remember what got you started? Do you remember if it was a friend, a family member, anybody that got you initially started into gaming?
I don't know if there's something that got me started, like me personally started, but there was always a family Nintendo. Like, I suppose that might be a better answer right there.
So, like, were your parents into gaming then? Did they initially get it, or did you have like brothers and sisters who were into it before you were around?
I've got two sisters, and they were into it a little bit. So we had like the core Mario and Duck Hunt, and then a bunch of movie and TV tie-in games.
There you go. So it's weird too, because like I find it rare. Like nowadays, I find it more common, obviously, that girls play games. You know, like I have a 15-year-old daughter, I have a 9-year-old daughter. They play a ton of games. But it's weird because I look back at that time, and I don't know if it was just like a boy, like, you know, people just thought video games were just for boys or something, but I don't know too many like girls that age that were into gaming. I mean, obviously, like I said, now the landscape's completely different. You know, my daughters are pretty big into games and everything, but it's weird because you think back, it's like I don't remember any females that were into games as much. I maybe they just thought, oh, that's just a boy thing. I don't know.
I don't know. They didn't stay in it for too long, but back then they were.
Yeah, but I mean, so they were just mostly playing like the basics, like the core stuff, like Mario, Duck Hunt, stuff like that, and everything. And then when you came along, were you more the person in the house that was playing it the most?
Yeah.
So did your parents ever play, or did you guys ever do any like co-op stuff with your sisters or anything?
One of the tie-in games was Wheel of Fortune, and the parents had a bunch of fun on that.
I can imagine, yeah. That's the other thing too with that game too, is like I remember, I'm trying to think of what game I think I played Family Feud back in the day on one of those. The only thing that sucks is like typing out the answers. You're like, okay, you know, having to move the cursor around to get to the answers, but also too, like, especially with like some of the games, like Wheel of Fortune's pretty, for the most part, straightforward, you know, like it's, you know, there's no real way to mess it up, but like games where you had to like type out the answers exactly, like that was a lot harder to do. But I mean, obviously Wheel of Fortune was definitely more and more straightforward of a game, you know, just because there wasn't really anything you could do besides choose vowels or consonants and see what you do. So the only thing that sucks with those games is at the end you don't actually win any real money. That'd be really nice if you did, though.
That would be.
That'd be amazing, yeah. So then, was that the game, like, did you guys ever have, like I wouldn't say, like, family game nights, but, like, was that a thing that you and your family kind of hung around and did for at least a decent amount of time?
Yeah. From memory, yeah, that, like Wheel of Fortune, and then the Duck Hunt, we'd all gather up in the family room and play those every once in a while.
Oh, that's cool. And then, so your sisters were playing it, and then you obviously, you were the primary person in the house. Like, eventually you were the person that just kind of like stuck with it and just kind of kept going with it.
Right.
Gotcha. And then, as time, were your parents pretty encouraging about it, or were they actually kind of like, oh, you should go out and do other things besides play games? Or were they actually pretty supportive of you kind of playing games, or were they kind of hesitant on it?
Back then, they were kind of like, we wish you'd do other stuff. You're kind of like, you sure are gaming a lot. It wouldn't be nice to do some other stuff. But nowadays, they're all for it.
Well, that's good. I mean, at least they're encouraging now. But so did you ever have any particular hobbies or anything that you had besides gaming that bled over into gaming? Like, did you ever like play any sports and then want to go play the sports games around that time?
I don't know about that, but the other way around a little bit here and there, such as like the Tony Hawk games.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Buy a skateboard. I never really got far into it from there, but.
Did you ever have like other friends in the neighborhood or anything that you would go over and play games with, or like socialize around gaming with?
Yeah. My best friend today, we've been playing games since elementary school pretty regularly. He had the PlayStation before I did, and so the Nintendo stuff was at my house for a little while, and then PlayStation stuff was over at his.
So then, do you remember any particular games or any memories from when you were playing? Did you guys play any like local co-op stuff or anything together, like back in the Nintendo days and everything?
Yeah, we had the Pokemon Stadium, of course, and then over there at his house we had some of the Twisted Metal stuff going.
Oh, that works. Yeah, I mean, like those have definitely co-op games and everything that's pretty cool though. I mean, at least you had friends in the neighborhood. But like, as you progressed, did your sisters become less and less involved with games? They just didn't want to have anything to do with it?
Right. My sister, the younger sister, she still kept ownership of the Super Nintendo, but her interest was quickly going down, and by the time the 64 on, it was pretty much I was the only one into them.
Gotcha. So then that kind of answers my next questions going forward. So like, obviously you went through Nintendo, did that, and then you kind of went on to Super Nintendo. Do you remember any particular games that you remember playing a lot when you had the Super? Did you ever go Genesis or anything, or did you ever have any friends that had Genesis?
I think so, but I never got too much. Maybe just like playing a Sonic game here and there, or watching a friend play a Sonic game. But I never actually owned one.
Gotcha. What about any particular SNES games that you remember?
Yeah. Link to the Past, Mega Man X, Street Fighter 2, those are the ones that are popping into mind right now.
Right. Did you ever get into, like, were you, like, it was a weird time, too, because at one point in time, like, fighting games, especially Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, like, those were taking over a lot of people's mind shares and everything. Like, I remember, I got Street Fighter for Genesis. I remember I got Championship Edition, and I remember playing it, and I don't know. Like, fighting games aren't, I'm not gonna say they're bad, but they're just not my cup of tea. Like, I know people that love them, and I don't think they're necessarily like, oh, those games suck. It's just, they take such a level of skill to be good, and you think you're good in your neighborhood. Like, you might be the best in your neighborhood, and then you quickly find out that you're, like, not good at all, because there's, like, someone out there that's, like, significantly better than you. And, like, the worst thing I would say is probably the internet ruined fighting games for me forever, because you quickly can go online and find out you are far from the even the closest to the best. Like, you go online and you will get your ass handed to you so quickly by shit you've never seen done before, and you're just like, all right, well, there goes my fun. So I remember the fighting games, like, I was big into them for, like, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, but literally after Genesis, like after Mortal Kombat 3, I just didn't really keep going with them because I just, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if it was being discouraged that you quickly find out you're not really that good at games when other people are just really, or just, that's just their shit. That's what they do. That's, there's always good, there's always games out there that people are really good in and really concentrate on and focus on. So I don't know. Maybe it just wasn't fighting games for me.
Yeah. Thank God for single player.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Like single player games and everything that well, it made it easier. I mean, I had a lot of buddies in the neighborhood, so we did play a lot of co-op stuff, but yeah, I mean, it's funny because I think back at like some single player stuff, and for a while there I wasn't into RPGs around that time. I was just more into like what can me and my buddies play together, so it was always like local co-op shit, like NBA Jam, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, like the wrestling video games. Like it was just all of those. Like it was for a while there I didn't really do many single player stuff. Like we did Sonic, and then we did like I did the Sonic games. I had like Vector Man and Comic Zone because I was a Genesis kid. But yeah, it was just weird because like for the most part I was just so focused on like what games can I play together. And then of course there's the Power Rangers debacle where I got that game and it was trash and I beat it in 30 minutes, and it's just I was more like, what games can I play with my friends? So for a while there I didn't even do any of the super stuff, like Super Nintendo, like Chrono Trigger, Mario RPG, any of the Final Fantasy games on there. I just never even got a chance to get to them because I didn't have a Super, but also too, like most of my friends were just all like, what can we play together? Like that was never a focus for me or anything. Was really the single player stuff. I had single player games, just never really, was my primary focus. I was all just like, what can I play with my buddies and stuff? That's about all I did.
Right.
So then, go ahead.
You mentioning Mario RPG, that brings back a lot of good memories right there.
Yeah, like, and it sucks because I'm not going to say it's bad to go back on them, because some games you can go back on and in your head you think nostalgia made them way better than they were, so you go back and play them and they really weren't that great. Or sometimes you go back and play them and they're awesome. And I think that was almost the last generation where you could go back and not feel graphically like, wow, what the hell am I, what am I looking at? Because like you try to go back and play some old PlayStation 1 games, and I get it, graphics aren't what matter. I get it that it's gameplay and all that, but also too, just a sign of the times. Like when you go back and play some of those PS1 games and you just realize like, wow, the graphics are so jarring. Like it's just odd to play this, or just, quality of life shit. You know what I mean? Just like how controls have gotten tighter and better and more fluid, and just, it's weird to go back to some games, but those, I feel like that's the last generation, like 16-bit era, where those games hold up, like regardless, like the graphics, look cool. They don't jar you, especially the RPGs, just because that's kind of like your building blocks of what's happened now and for the last 20 years or whatever, you know what I mean? So it's cool to, and that's why when everybody saw the SNES Classic, everybody was losing their shit, which rightfully so, because there's a lot of good games on there. But I mean, I was just like, I don't have that kind of attachment to those games just because I never played them. But it'd be cool to go back, go and play those games and relive them. But also too, there's just way too much new shit, and I got a lot of stuff to play now. So if I ever hit a lull in my life, I'll go pick up an SNES Classic. Also, when they're not trying to be scalped online for $150 because those people are assholes, but I won't get into that right now. So then you went from Super Nintendo, and then so you said you went N64, but then your buddy had a PlayStation, right?
Yeah.
And then so that's where it's always good, because that's where you have that kind of mix. Like, you know what I mean? You can play the things you want to play that are exclusive to 64, and then you just go to your buddy's house and play all the PlayStation shit. What games do you remember from like that time frame that you remember specifically?
Ocarina of Time. And then you got Majora's Mask, also Donkey Kong 64. I mean, there's a lot more but Oh, those are
Those are the ones that bring back just right off the top. Those are the ones that you can think of. And then, so as far as PlayStation goes, did you ever have any particular game? Like, it kind of sounded like obviously you were into Zelda because you had Link to the Past and then Ocarina. Did you favor Zelda, or was there any particular brand of, not brand I should say, but like genre of game that you really gravitated towards?
back then I'd say the action adventure kind of genre was the one I stuck with mostly.
Well, that's cool. And then did you, as far as it goes, did you ever, what about PlayStation? What do you remember from that time frame?
Like I said, the Twisted Metal. And then eventually I did get my own PlayStation. And you had Metal Gear Solid. My first Final Fantasy was 8. And I want to say Tomorrow Never Dies, one of the James Bond games.
So how did you go about? Because I mean, how old are you? So around that time, obviously, you're not working to get your own systems and everything. So you got a 64, but then did you just kind of go to? Did you just kind of go to your parents and say, hey, I want a PlayStation as well? And they were, oh, well, maybe so, but you got 64. Did they ever give you any grief of trying to get two of the same consoles during that generation?
Not really, only because I framed them as Christmas gifts.
Right. You just kind of have to but it's a Christmas gift. Did your parents ever try to pull that crap where if it was a big item, it was this is Christmas and your birthday? Did they ever do anything like that?
Not really like that, but they did, or they were like, this is your Christmas, but this is about all of your Christmas.
Right, yeah, that was the gift, and you were just cool, I don't want anything else, I'm okay, I just get this one thing.
Yep.
I tried to pull that shit, because, obviously, I grew up in my family wasn't well off or whatever, so, I remember I tried so many times to be let's use this as my birthday and my Christmas gift. Problem is, my birthday's in June, so it's it's not one of those close enough months where you could try to lump that shit together, and you're oh no, it's literally halfway through the year is my birthday. So it's okay, but the cool thing I will say is my grandma she was trying to teach me responsibility, which she did. And she's hey, if you pay for half, I will pay for the other half for your Christmas gift. So you best believe I busted my ass and did a bunch of shit around the house and for my grandma and got enough money for allowance and chores and all the stuff I did. Got half, and she's yeah, you did it. So I ended up getting a PlayStation that Christmas, and yeah, again, I'm trying to teach. I did the same thing for my son as well. I was hey, if you save up half, I'll do the other half. Or if you want to buy, you want your own TV in your room, you got to save up your own money and buy your own TV. The only problem is when it backfires. That's a problem, because then you're oh shit, I got to do this. Oh, I guess I got to go, kid. He, for Christmas one year, it was last year, because when his birthday, his birthday's in November, right? So we don't do that bullshit where we try to lump two gifts together. His birthday's his birthday, Christmas is Christmas. But we basically tell him from November through the end of the year, you're not allowed to spend your allowance money, because I don't want him to use his allowance money to go buy something that somebody potentially could get from as a gift. So I tell him, no, you can't. You spend your allowance after Christmas, after everybody gets you whatever presents you're going to end up getting. If you got allowance and you want to buy something you didn't get, go for it. And the last year, a lot of people didn't know what to get him. And I kept telling him, just get him Xbox shit. Just go buy him Xbox cards. He'll be happy. But he ended up just getting a ton of money instead. And then he was just straight hey, I want a TV. And I'm you don't have enough. And then he's no, go look at the board. And I went to look at the board, and with all the money he got for Christmas, I was oh, I guess you do have enough for a TV. And he's yeah, and I also want to buy a wall mount, and I want you to mount it in my room. And I was all right, dude. You know what I mean? That's what you did. You saved your money. what can I say? I can't say no. I told you if you saved your money, you'd be able to get it. So I should have charged him for labor for mounting it in his room, though. Like, I should have did something, but I didn't do that at least. That was nice enough for him.
Yeah.
So then you continue down that road and everything. Where did you go next from there?
From there, I went, I want to say first to PlayStation 2. From there, the Final Fantasy X commercials on Toonami really got to me. I was like, I really want to play this.
So then that was like the catalyst for you moving forward into it and everything?
Yeah.
So then obviously, like, so you got that. Did you kind of stick with the RPGs then on that? Because that system had ridiculously good games, like RPGs and stuff. Like, what other games from that era do you remember?
More of the Metal Gears again.
Like, okay, I have a question for you, because this is always a weird question that some people do and don't like or whatever. Did you actually like Metal Gear 2?
That was probably actually the first one that I completed 100%.
Like, you went through and did absolutely every single little thing you could?
Or got the end credits first before I finished the others.
Gotcha. Okay. So you went and actually completed. Okay. And then what did you think of Metal Gear 3?
Absolutely loved it.
See, for whatever reason, and I think it was just like around that time, they were just trying to do so much shit in gaming. 2 I liked. 3 I just couldn't get into. Like, I don't know what it was. Like, and I'm not saying it's a bad game, because obviously many people say it's a good game, and it's just my opinion that I just, what threw me off was, like, I think it was around, so obviously PS2, when Grand Theft Auto 3 came out, everybody was like, holy shit, open world games. Then everybody, and obviously Grand Theft Auto pushed the envelope and just made it more and more ridiculous. But then when they got to like San Andreas, how it was like you could eat food and you could work out, and there was this and this and this and this and this and this and like all this shit you could do. But also the system couldn't do it to the level obviously that you can do today, right? So they were trying to throw all this shit into gaming. And then when they started doing shit like that in Metal Gear with like how it's like, oh, there's things you have to eat, but then your food can go bad, but then there's like different camos you can get. Like, I don't know what it was, but for whatever reason, when I was playing Metal Gear 3, I was just like, I'm not into this. Like, something about it I just wasn't into. And again, I was the odd one, right? Because so many people around me said that game was awesome. And obviously people said like the story of that game is fantastic. And again, I'm just that weirdo that was just like, I don't know why, but I just didn't get it. I didn't get it at all. I also didn't play Metal Gear 4, so I did play 5 though. Okay, 5 story's trash. Gameplay is probably one of the best gameplay loops I've played in a long time, so gotta give them that. But yeah, it was just, I don't know, around that time when games were starting to do just so much, because they were just trying to keep up with Grand Theft Auto. Like, a lot of games were just trying to mimic what Grand Theft Auto was doing and how much shit they were able to put into a game, and all these like, the whole food and working out thing in San Andreas, that was weird. I was like, dude, I don't want to look fat. I don't want to look swole. I don't like, this is just weird. I'm not trying to play The Sims. I'm trying to play, you give me a character and I'll just play it. You know what I mean? I don't need to wonder if CJ is going to get fat or not. Like, that's not my goal in the game. So it was just kind of weird. I don't know. So then did you ever get GameCube, Xbox, or anything like that around that time? Like, did you ever go second console again, or did you just kind of stick with PlayStation 2 going forward?
Also got a GameCube.
It's so funny. It's so funny because so many people got like GameCube and Xbox or GameCube and PlayStation, because like, of course, you had to have your Nintendo games.
Yep.
So then I'm assuming, just take an educated guess, you probably got Wind Waker for that, correct?
Eventually. But the version of the console I got actually came with the collector's disc, so I had. Oh,
you got the Master Sword. I'm trying to remember what was the name of it. I mean, of course, people are screaming at their phones right now, like, "Dummy, that was the name of this." But so yours had like the whole like it was basically like the greatest compilation disc ever. Like, and it was a pre-order bonus for something, like, which was ridiculous. Like, wait, this is a pre-order bonus? This is ridiculous. This is awesome. Because now pre-order things are like, get an extra armor in Shadow of War, or get this, and they're like, no, we're going to give you fucking games. Like, we're going to give you remasters and redos of games that are awesome. So it's like the best thing ever. Can't complain about that. So then, you stuck GameCube, did PlayStation. Did you ever, because that was right around when online started getting crazy, did you ever get into online? Did you ever do anything online with, I mean, I was going to say, obviously you didn't do anything online with GameCube. Like, come on now. Because there was like a game or something that did online, something like that. It was like one or two. I remember at work, I used to work at Game Crazy, they sold the broadband connection adapter, and I think like Phantasy Star Online worked with it. And I don't know what else, but I think that might have been like one of the only two games or something. And I was just like, who the hell does this? Did you ever start online with PlayStation or anything, or did you kind of wait until the later consoles for that?
I waited until later. I didn't even realize it was until a bit later that PlayStation 2 could do some online stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that was... I was more into Xbox at the time just because of the online aspect. Like, that actually is what drew me to playing Xbox primarily over PlayStation, just because I preferred how Xbox did it, and it was built, it was built in and all of that. So, I mean, at least I did that side of things. So I'm not saying I never did any online with PlayStation. I just remember it not being as easy, because that was back before you had the single user log in and everything for everything. Like, PlayStation had you create names for everything, which was stupid. Xbox was at least ahead of its time there. So then you went through, did you do, so going forward, obviously you were PlayStation GameCube. Did you continue down like PlayStation's route with PS3, or did you kind of hold off and go 360 because that thing was ridiculously overpriced?
I went, and 360 was a year before, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It came out a year before, and it was $100 cheaper a year before it came out, which is like, that basically is what happened this generation, which put the nail in the coffin for Xbox. But yeah, essentially, well, at least this generation, they came out the same month, same year and everything. But yeah, so it sounds like you went 360 though.
Yes, sir.
And then what games from that do you remember?
The Assassin's Creed, Modern Warfare was what got me started on the Call of Duty. Some of the Halos, Skyrim, Mortal Kombat, just a whole menagerie of games from there.
And then, so did you still have, like, obviously your best friend or whatever, were you guys still heavily into games? Did you, around that time, did you have more friends that you played online with? Like, obviously Call of Duty blew up. I'm not going to say Call of Duty blew up like online gaming, because obviously there was plenty of games there, but that was one of the games that, like, I think caught a lot of people who weren't necessarily as into gaming. You know what I mean? Like, that was a reason a lot of people got a 360 is because of Call of Duty. You know, obviously you have like Madden, and you have like certain games, Madden, Grand Theft Auto, Halo, those types of games will make people buy a console. But like, I remember Call of Duty, especially because obviously there was Call of Duties before Modern Warfare, but like Modern Warfare was the one that like kicked the door in, and it was just like, here's a really good online, here's a really good story. It's not World War II. Like, let's get the hell away from all that. So at least they had that to kind of kickstart what blew up into, like, you know, most successful gaming franchise year over year, which is ridiculous. But, you know, at least that. So then you played online and everything. I mean, at that time, the local co-op stuff wasn't as prevalent, you know? It was more like focusing online and stuff. Did you ever do any particular co-op stuff locally, or did you just kind of stick with online and just played Call of Duty with your buddies?
Each Halo that came out, 3, 4, ODST, and Reach, each weekend they came out, I'd get together with that same friend and then like 2 or 3 others, and we'd play the campaign on Legendary one sitting.
Jesus Christ. Like, just in a weekend, you would just try to go through it all. Like, did you do the 4-player co-op, or was it just 2? Like,
yeah, we did the 4-player. We went to one of the houses amongst us, grabbed some sodas and snacks. Good time.
Yeah, absolutely. So that basically, you did each of the Halo games that way. And it sucks too, because like now a lot of games don't even offer that, because I mean, I get why, just because the internet exists and it's everywhere. So I get why, but also too, that's one thing I kind of miss too, of like the local thing. And obviously people got super pissed with Halo 5 because when it didn't have it, people lost their shit. They were just like super unhappy about that, which again, I think back and I'm like, how many of you, obviously they had to see some sort of statistic, like how many people play this game local co-op? You know what I mean? Like they had to see that and just go, we don't really need it. I'm sure obviously people want it, but we don't necessarily need it. Let's save this out of the, cost of making this game. And then obviously people got super pissed and now they're like, all right, sorry, we'll make sure it's in the next one, whatever. But yeah, I mean, like that kind of sucks now because that local co-op, but also too, people are just busy as shit. You know what I mean? Like I have a wife, I have kids. Majority of my friends have wives and kids. So like for us to get together to play games locally is almost impossible. Because the only time we get together is now kids' birthday parties, which of course it's frowned upon to play games when, your son's having a birthday and whatever, but that's all right. So then you played online, did that. Did you said you went 360. Did you ever go Wii or PS3? Did you ever go to those eventually?
About a year before, like probably 2012 or so, I got my buddy's PS3 from him, and it was the original PlayStation 3, pretty cheap, and
was it the backward compatible one, the one that you could like actually play the old shit with?
Yeah.
That's always the best one. I still have one, and I will never get rid of it. I don't care if I barely use PlayStation in general. Like, it's just one of those, because I have the only PS1 game I own, because they don't have it digitally anywhere else, is Thrasher Skate and Destroy for PlayStation 1, which is the most realistic skateboarding game at the time. It was ridiculous, but it's one of those games that's just like, I don't know. It's just one of those weird games that like has that memory in my head of like playing the demo, but then trying to find the game was really hard. I finally found a copy. I still have it, and I just can't get rid of my PS3 that plays the PS1 games. Like I just can't do it.
Yeah.
It's always awesome. So you got PS3. That was the other thing too, like with PlayStation, because I mean around that time, obviously Call of Duties and all that were everywhere. Call of Duty was on everything. Madden, so the multiplayer aspect of it, I just, for whatever reason, anytime I think multiplayer, I just think Xbox. Like, online multiplayer. It's just Xbox is in my head. Like I know PlayStation 3 had it. I know PS2 had it, and I know PS4 has it. But like for whatever reason, when I think just multiplayer online, I think that. But I have a PS3. And I just love the shit out of it for all the Sony single player exclusives, because they're all amazing, and Xbox doesn't I'm not gonna say Xbox's exclusives aren't good, because I enjoy Gears, I enjoy Halo, but like as far as a single player aspect goes, like Sony single player shit is just ridiculous. Like it's so good.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to compare any game to The Last of Us on Xbox. Like
that's the reason why I was so excited to get it from him for The Last of Us specifically.
Yeah, that game was one of those just like weird, like special games that I never played the Uncharted before it. Like I got a PS3. The game that got me into getting a PS3 was Little Big Planet, because my father-in-law had a PS3. We went over there, he had Little Big Planet, and we all played the local co-op. And I was like, even my kids could play it, my wife could play it. So we were all having a blast. So that's what got me into getting actually a PS3. Like the day I got a PS3, I went to Best Buy, I bought Little Big Planet, I bought 3 more controllers like that day, and we just came home and played the shit out of it. And it just sat there for a while. Like I didn't really play much. I heard the Uncharted games were good, but I was just playing so much shit on 360 that I just didn't get a chance to get to them. But then like Last of Us came out, I think at like almost a perfect time, because it was right before the consoles were switching over. So, like, they had the perfect timing of putting out that game. And then, of course, once you played it, everybody wouldn't shut the hell up about it. They were just like, this game is ridiculous. This story is so good. And, yeah, that's definitely... It's weird because some people, when they think of, like, their favorite game of that generation, they'll say The Last of Us. And it literally was, like, the last big hurrah for PlayStation 3. Like, and then, of course, they quickly ported it to PS4 because they're like, yeah, we can print money with this thing. So, of course, why would we not do that? And, of course, I bought it on PS4 as well because I had to. Like,
yeah,
you have to. And I mean, and it's cool though. I mean, I also laugh though because, like, obviously you can tell when those systems first came out how many remasters were coming out left and right, up and down. Just like, what games were popular right at the end of the console life cycle? Let's just put those out again and make them do 1080p, you know, because they weren't doing anything higher than that. So they're just like, let's just quote unquote remaster them when it's like, they were already in high def, but now they're 60 frames and they're 1080p. It's fancy. Yeah, that's exactly. And of course, you know, dummies like us are just like, we don't care. We just need something to play on our new consoles. So we just gave them money. So now that we're at our current consoles, where did you go there?
I went to the job force, so I had a bunch of spare money. So I'm like, PS4 first. And then a couple of months later, when I finally found it, Xbox One.
There you go. So yeah, that's always a good thing when you're like, hey, money, that works out. That makes it a lot easier to buy. So, yeah, I mean, as far as it goes, so now are you at that point though, where you're at your adult life where you have all the shit you need, you want, but then you just don't have time to play any of it? Yes, that's always the problem. So, have you gotten to the point, though, do you have girlfriend or kids or any of that?
Not right now, no.
There you go. Well, at least enjoy that for a while. Like, at least enjoy that normalcy of just being able to at least come home and play games, because that works. Just wait till you get a wife and kids. That's when it gets tougher to play games. But also, too, they take up your time, and that's good, too. So, it's okay. Yeah. Just gaming gets harder and harder. What are you kind of playing nowadays?
Recently finished Horizon. A good one.
Yeah, that game is amazing.
We had I enjoyed The Last Guardian when it came. It was kind of divisive as to whether people are not enjoyed it or not, but I thought the wait was worth it.
I was one of those people that of course they talked about it for 10 years, right?
Yeah.
Like literally 10 years. And I got to a point where I was just sitting there thinking, like, this game has been talked about for 10 years. I don't know what to think of it. And again, I didn't play Shadow of the Colossus. I didn't play Eco. I didn't have that, like, attachment to those games to where I felt like I had to play Last Guardian. But then I was just like, you know what? I'll just hold off on it. I had a PS4 at the time. I was like, you know what? I'll just hold off. We'll see what happens. And then, like, after seeing a lot of the reviews, I was like, okay, maybe I'll pick this up one day on a sale or something. But again, it's one of those games that got just kind of lost in my mindset. You know what I mean? Like, you mentioning it now, you're like the first person to bring it up to me. It's probably since launch. Like, I haven't thought about that game at all in a very long time. And I was just like, oh yeah, that game came out, didn't it? Again, not saying it's bad, because some people liked it. There was a lot of people, though, that just straight didn't. And I don't know if it was just bitterness of like, hey, we should have had this game maybe 7 years ago, 8 years ago, you know. Some people, like, the worst is when you buy a console anticipating, oh man, I can't wait for this game to come out in a year. And then, like, it just straight doesn't, because Kingdom Hearts 3 did that to me for PlayStation 3. I was fully anticipating. I'm like, of course, I'm going to buy PS3 because Kingdom Hearts 3 is going to come out and I'll have it for this and it'll be great. And then, of course,
still waiting.
Fucking still wait. My son will graduate high school before that shit comes out. Like, that that game is going to come out in the year 2022 or something stupid. Like, I have no faith that game will come out until it is in my hand. I will never believe a release date. I will never believe it. Like, it's just, you hear, what was it? The voice of Goofy was like, it's coming out next year. And I'm like, you're fucking ridiculous. It's not coming out next year. There's no way this game is going to come out because they've shown a couple worlds, you know? And like, also I love how the director of that found out he was directing the Final Fantasy VII remake when they announced it. Apparently he's just like, oh, I guess I'm doing that too? Like, what are you talking about? Yeah, I have no faith in that game coming out anytime soon. So I try not to get too excited when I see stuff. I see it and I'm like, that's cool. I'll wait for it. Although when I saw the Toy Story 3 thing, when they were in like Toy Story World, how just gorgeous the game looked. I was like, that actually looks like the Pixar movie. Like that looked really, really good. But again, I keep having to tell myself, this is not coming out anytime soon. Don't get excited. Just wait. Just wait. I think they said 2018. I still don't believe them. I will not believe them until it's out. So we'll figure it out from there. So did you end up, so obviously you got that. Did you end up getting a Switch?
Yes, just, I didn't get, I actually went online, but I still got a pretty good price for it.
Oh, okay. So you got them around the time when they were still like harder to find in stores?
Yeah.
Has that essentially become your exclusive Nintendo machine?
Yes.
Yeah, I think everybody's has. Like, I owned 4 games for it. Zelda, Mario Kart, Splatoon 2, and Odyssey. Like, yeah, it's a really good Nintendo console, but I really hope Nintendo gives me some exclusive third-party game that's awesome on Switch. You know, I know a lot of people who actually bought Sonic Mania on Switch just because like they felt right doing it. I don't know like what that even means. Like you had to feel, I'm not going to say you felt obligated to, but it just felt better getting it for Switch, maybe because of the portability and it was Sonic. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I hope Nintendo comes out with some shit that, and I mean, at least they're getting good third party support from like Bethesda, especially Bethesda. Like I don't know what kind of money Nintendo threw at Bethesda for them to put all their shit on there, but like, good for you guys. And, you know, that's awesome. Like, only thing that weirds me out is why is it not coming day and date with other shit? You know, like, Wolfenstein's literally coming out next year. And I'm like, are people still going to care about Wolfenstein a year, you know, like 6 months from now? Which they should, because Wolfenstein 2 was amazing. But still, like, it's hard to do that. Do you remember when, I don't know if you know, Watch Dogs for Wii U didn't come out, I think, for like over a year. Like over a year later, Watch Dogs came out for Wii U after it came out for like PS3, PS4, or like it was absurd how long it took for it to get on there. And I'm like, no one is even thinking about Watch Dogs right now. Like you guys just screwed this completely up. So that was the only concern I had. I was like, man, it's cool Wolfenstein's coming out, but I hope Bethesda doesn't get discouraged when they put it out 6 months from the release of, you know, Xbox One and all that. And they're like not seeing the sales figures they'd hope. So, I don't know. I guess we'll find out and everything. Are you playing games online today? Or are you doing anything like if people wanted to find you online or anything? What were they go? What's your gamer tag? Why don't you go ahead and self promote and throw all that out there?
Let's see. I occasionally stream like a PS4 game on Twitch at Kirk King 2000. And that's also like my handle on like Twitter and Twitch and on Xbox. It is actually just Kirk King.
Oh, you were fancy. You got that before anybody else did. Good for you.
Yeah.
Did you get that? You get that like early 360 days?
Yeah.
I was so bummed because I had an original Xbox gamer tag. And I don't know what happened. Like, I did take a time off between, like, original Xbox and 360. Like, it was like a year or something. But, like, I remember trying to recover my old gamer tag. And for whatever reason, I just couldn't. So I had to make a new one. And I was like, oh, whatever. So I've had, like, one since, like, 360's days. But, like, I get bummed when I see some of my friends, like, because you can go online and see how long they've been a, you know, member. My friend Busby has had it literally since day one, and I get jealous when I see his says like 12 years. I'm like, Jesus Christ, dude. I wish mine said 12, but it says 8. I feel stupid, but whatever. I got in early on 360 at least, so I got some time on there. Well, and if people want to play with you or anything, I will have links in the show notes and everything of, your names and all that, so they can definitely check that out. Dude, thank you so much for being on the show. I really do appreciate you wanting to be on and sharing all your stories. And again, man, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. A lot of fun.
All right. And again, thank you, Jordan, for being on the show. If you guys want to check him out on Twitter or any of his stuff, I have all the links in the show notes for all of his things as well. Again, if you guys want to be on the show just like he was, he went ahead and he sent me a tweet at GUG Podcast on Twitter. So feel free to do that, or at MitchPower1116. Also, just a reminder, we also have a Facebook group, Growing Up Gaming Podcast group. So you can search that up on Facebook. And also I have a website, which I don't promote enough, which I'm starting to now, GUGpodcast.com. So feel free to check that out as well. Again, hopefully you have, or guys are enjoying the show. You guys have subscribed on iTunes, shared it with a buddy, rated us, all that cool stuff. I mean, I really don't know what it does or if it benefits anything, but I mean, hopefully people out there enjoy the show. So thank you guys for listening again this week, and I'll catch you guys next week with another episode. See ya.